Bridges, Aldcombe, Haywards Heath, Wibblesfield, Burgess Hill, Essex, Preston Park, and Brighton.
Kind of record our conversation today. Forgot to
Okay.
push the record button.
I'll talk so Carl can eat. We went over to the Siberian elm, and lo and behold, there is another tree about 3 feet something, right, from the elm. I mean, it's like somebody had just plopped down the archway for me, and it's just perfect. I can't tell you how perfect it is, because I'll put the sculpture on top. This is going to be a joint project, me and Carl. He's going to do some chainsawing for the notches on top. And also after I met with Carl, I was thinking of other things that I could put in that sculpture. It seemed that at the meeting, people wanted Hazel Crest represented. And so what I could do, since this is a hollowed out figure, I was thinking of carving some big hazelnuts and leaves to represent the hazel tree. Maybe putting some carvings on the 2 vertical logs as well. Again, maybe some reference to Hazel Crest, to the hazel tree. Carl, are there any hazel trees on the property?
There's hazelnut bushes,
Bushes, okay.
and they're in full sun.
Okay. All right. Now these would be carvings, so they don't need any sun.
Right.
Yeah. So, but there is such a thing as a hazelnut tree, correct?
There's a Turkish filbert tree. And we
Okay.
have planted a couple of those, but we're having difficulties getting them established.
Okay. But you do have hazelnut bushes.
Yes.
Good to know. Okay. Thank you. All right. So
Good afternoon, Marilyn.
Hi, Marilyn.
I'll
Nice to see you again.
unmute you. Here you go. I just unmuted you.
Okay, I was saying have a good afternoon, all.
Yeah, we just jumped right in and started, and with everyone's time, and
Okay.
talked about Christine was talking about her and Carl took a site visit over, and you could repeat that, Christine.
Yes, Marilyn, after the meeting, Carl and I, Carl said, do you want to look at the Siberian elm? And I said, I sure do. So we went over there, and it's pretty close to the rustic gathering space. It's on Holmes, right, Carl? That's the street?
Yes.
Yeah. So you drive out of the lot, the police station lot, you make a left, and the Siberian elm is on the right, obviously in the Arboretum. There are houses across the street. And I just think it's, I talked to Carl about this, and he agreed that it would, it's a kind of another entryway into the Arboretum. So I just think it's in a great space. Now, Alpha, I know that you said that area is kind of full.
Where?
Art-wise.
What do you mean?
Well,
Where?
where the gathering.
Okay.
What would you call it?
Presentation?
The presentation? Yeah, presentation area. Because Peter will have something, and I walked with Peter also before the meeting to see where his sculpture would go. So his sculpture is going to be kind of around there, around the gathering space, or farther down the road, right, Peter?
Yeah, it's about halfway around. You won't even see it.
Oh, okay, okay. But the gathering spaces, I mean, you can see the gathering space from the where the archway would be. I don't think it's too much, because the archway is going to be very subtle. In fact, I really like the fact that it's made from these 2 trees that are already there. So people might look at it and have to give it a second look to see, oh, there's artwork up there. This is actually a sculpture instead of just two trees. So,
Yeah, it's about 4 houses down from the path where the pathway starts.
Can I
Well,
say I'm not seeing myself? Can anyone see me
Um,
or hear me?
we could hear
I
you.
can
You
hear
turned off your
you.
camera. You have the, turn your camera back on.
I don't
Are
understand.
you
Yeah,
work-
yeah, make sure you didn't do the video thing.
This thing, let's see. Maybe a picture. Oops. Okay, I'll just have to listen for a while because this occurred before.
Mhm. All right, so what we wanted to do is just jump right in because we got a plan for next Tuesday. Monday, I got the invitation from the assistant village manager. I just say all these titles, right? Laverne Murphy inviting Bill to come and speak during the media bliss. And so we'll be out there Thursday afternoon, and they want to make sure, Christine, you were going to be there. She sent a special email to make sure that is the artist going to be there that does the wood. They love your wood, and like that. And I'll bring a tablecloth that we talked about, and she's back, and
Oh.
do those things.
There you're back, Marilyn.
Okay.
Bill will bring brochures, for the table, and when we get there, we may not even need the table, but I'm bringing the table. And then that way we're going to leave at 11. The event doesn't start till 1, but the traffic and then setting up shouldn't be that much traffic during that time of day when we commute out. And then we just make a judgment call on how you want to set up that. I'll just bring one table.
okay, I'm a little confused. You just said Thursday, maybe you
No,
misspoke.
I said Monday. I meant Monday. The
Okay, so
23rd is Monday.
Monday, the 23rd, that's 5 minutes, right? We're gonna get
Yes.
5 minutes. All
Right,
okay.
but they'll be
No,
there
that's Tuesday.
to, no, Tuesday is the board meeting. We're talking about the invitation we got from Laverne Murphy to attend the media. And there we'll be talking about the Beautification Commission.
On
And the
Monday.
work that we're gonna do on Monday, yes.
Okay,
And that's separate from the board meeting. But today, for Tuesday is the a board meeting. So Carol's on
Okay.
board. We'll wait for Carol to sign in so we can do a debrief of last night, and then I can go
Mhm.
back to the PowerPoint of how suggestions for, I'm gonna really redo a new one.
Mhm.
And I thought last night that I didn't, the way I presented the PowerPoint. Hey, Carol.
Hi, Carol.
How you doing?
Hi,
How are
Carol.
you?
Is that Marilyn? I need to talk with you, Marilyn.
All right.
Let's talk soon.
Because your
Okay.
name came up last night, Carol, and I was like, okay, Carol's gonna do that. Carol will plan that. Carol's really great at that. Especially on the Sun Festival, I don't, you're doing all that and working with Marilyn to pull that community engagement piece together.
It's
So
just Marilyn, you're hard to get a hold of.
Oh. It's been rough. But
yes.
I'm available. I have some freed up time now. I was just going through one of those barrages of stuff. But I don't know how you feel about calling. That's always good.
I like a meeting, like a decided time to call.
Sometimes it's good just to text and say, can you take a call? And
I
I can
see.
say, yes, I have the time.
Both
Okay.
of us.
Will that work for you?
I'll make it work, Marilyn.
Thank you, Carol.
Okay, great. We're getting ready to review last night's and how are you doing? I know you were traveling on the road. You're dealing with, your family.
It's
loss.
outrageous. It's outrageous. We're trying to get rid of an apartment's worth of stuff that they lived in for 30 years in 4 days.
Mhm. So we're not gonna we're just gonna go over, I know what your time is like, and again, Marilyn has been hard to get in touch with. She's been having the same issues with family members passing and having to do
Oh, I'm so
funerals and that
sorry,
kind of stuff.
Marilyn. I'm
Right,
sorry,
so,
Marilyn.
That's
yeah,
fine.
so if she said she was hard to get in touch with and all that, I give her grace. I put that
Yeah.
PowerPoint together. And she was supposed to present last night, so I gave her grace. We're very agile in terms of way we work with each other because we know life goes forward, it doesn't stand still for any of us in the work.
Yeah.
that-
And so it is, and so it is.
Yeah, huh? So our meeting went good last night. I just wanted to get some report from Marilyn and Carl before we jump in, and I put those slides back up that I presented last night. Marilyn?
Yes.
I just wanted to get some report about last night meeting, the presentation. We wanted, because we need to, I feel we need to improve that presentation. And then,
I thought the presentation was excellent. It was certainly better than what I would have done. I think once we got it up and running, you were able to go from first to second to third, all of that. And there were questions that were asked, input from those that had questions, and Bill spoke, Christine, as well as Peter, and I just think it went very, very well. Afterwards, some of the commissioners commented on how well that went. One young lady, a new young lady that was on board, said that was the best she had been to in a long time. And she was very, very motivated to be on board with us. So that was great. Carl stepped in and Mr. Sawyer did as well. So it was a full meeting. It was a full presentation. And those that gave their comments and concerns about the chairs, for example, I think that went well with how that was answered. And even on Christine's presentation of the two, what do you call it, Christine? Sort of like an entrance way.
An archway?
An archway, yes. So that showed interest to them as well. So they were seeming all in agreement with what we had put together.
That
So I
is,
thought that was perfect.
that's great. I was really impressed with, is her name Tara or Tara?
Tara,
Tara?
Tara,
She, I mean, she really
Yeah.
asked good questions
she does.
and she's very engaged and you can tell she's really connected to the community. So
Mhm,
I liked her.
mhm.
I think her concern too was about impact when she was saying, this is the one I'm thinking about, that she was concerned about the impact that you all are making, and getting the neighbors out, getting people out, recording, documenting, getting head counts of people that participate in programs so that you can do a true reflection of the work that you all are doing out there.
Yeah,
I believe that was Penny that
Okay.
brought that up.
No, not Penny. It was the other one.
Tara,
Tara. Yeah, she was sitting behind me.
yeah,
Yeah,
Okay.
I thought that, when I said the word impact, that's what she was talking about in terms of, how we engage people, the numbers, the counts, and to do more of that, and then report that and find ways of getting surveys and those kinds of things. And we did talk about placemaking, and I had those questionnaires that I bring out when we come together so that we can get responses from folks. So I'll present that to you all the next time I come to to your meetings to let you know how we're going to survey questions while we're out there. And that way we can get a full report.
yeah. Tara comes from a real estate background.
Okay.
Yeah, she mentioned that.
Mhm.
Carl, how'd you think the meeting went in our presentation?
I thought it went really good, the comments were positive. And, as you said, many, most of the audience was engaged.
Yeah, when I looked over the shoulder, I saw people paying attention, and the questions were good, and questions I felt like they didn't ask, I answered before. Our processes about selecting the artists, and how I felt that everyone that I brought in, especially for the beginning of this project, are experts in the field and have been doing this work for a while, and well, for a lifetime, been doing this work and working with the community. And also knowing that we can pivot, because these are design concepts. I didn't want to, I'm gonna let Peter talk before I get into it, but when I prepared the presentation, I didn't want to put all your work or your websites. I'm glad you said you divert, if they can see more of your work, to divert them, send them over to your website so they can look at the work that you guys have been doing. But I didn't want, this is the ideas, and we've been brainstorming since November about what you all want and you feel. And so that is why Peter and Christine have, and Carol presented, and Bill and I presented, the design concepts that we have already, and so I'll just turn things over to Peter, because I know on the slides you were looking for some other images that should have been on that PowerPoint. When you said, we had some images on my first presentation to the village. They're very impressed, but they saw all of the concepts that you all sent me in your proposals. And those are in the packet. Those are in the binders that I provided for everyone. So you don't have to handle paper. You
Right.
can, because we're going to be building this binder for our placemaking piece. Carol, they love your work because it blends, within, and you bend nature while you're working out there. But now we're in it where people want to have comment and want to help shape the work that the artists are bringing out. And that's only fair in community processes, so we're gonna hit that conversation today too.
I did send your slide presentation to the commissioners that didn't make the meeting, as well as the interested, our other volunteers and people that are interested that I send the village accomplishments to.
Oh, okay.
The weekly accomplishments, kind of thing. The police officer that stepped in to try to help us after Dante had volunteered some and so forth. And his comment was that, he says, oh, that's going to be very cool to have some, artwork, additional artwork. So, a very positive comment.
Good. Because I slept, but I was like, oh, where could we have done better? I'm shifting, my mind's shifting, going to the next. And I made notes of things that I felt like the response from, the community that were there, your members that were there, I took to heart, because we really want to bring a project to really kick off the Arts in the Woods that everybody is involved with. And you had someone there also from the school superintendent's office,
Joyce Dickerson.
And she had some really good comments and information too. You
Yes.
said Joyce
Joyce Dickerson.
Dickerson, okay.
She is new, and she has been assigned as the staff liaison to the Beautification Open Lands Commission.
And I was glad that she was there, so we could talk about like the workshops that Bill is gonna do, how Carol is coming in to facilitate, community engagement pieces like that. We didn't have, Alice there, so she could talk a little bit more about the community engagement that she's gonna bring out, but I don't think we're doing anything extra and over what you guys are already have on the calendar. And they did ask me for a timeline, that I put a timeline in, like Mr. Sawyer asked me about, making sure I put a timeline in, um, the next slide, so we can kind of give them. So we're kind of like going around and round and round, not biting our tail, but when we're doing in the midst of this design process, that's how it goes. So I'm gonna turn it over to Peter about last night.
Oh. No, I mean, I think last night was fine. I'm more concerned about the 5 minutes we have on Tuesday and limiting that to only 10 slides and limiting the amount of introductory stuff. And find out, I always give presentations from the listener point of view, which is more important than our point of view. So you have to know what they want to hear and see. So, ideally, they want to know what's going to be there, when is it going to be there, and how much is it going to cost. I'm not sure they have any more interest in 5 minutes.
Right. So I, putting that other slide presentation together, it was based on it was for the committee, the beautification commission.
Right, no, I understand.
Yeah, and giving the history, and I think we all agree that we have more time to do that. And
Yeah.
but go ahead, Meryl.
I was saying, yeah, I do remember the history. I thought that was so important, really, because it brought it all cohesively together instead of just jumping in where we are now. I'm just wondering if some more time could be extended, because I agree with you, Peter. I don't understand how 5 minutes would really make an impact on the listeners. I thought maybe minimally at the least 15 minutes, because again, this is the board and they need to, unless there's something that's put out ahead of time that would give some explanations about what we're doing. I don't see, I just would agree with you that 5 minutes is not enough time.
If I may,
could put
if I may
the-
interject,
Yes,
from attending previous meetings, I expect Trustee Huckleberry to ask a lot of questions.
yeah, they're gonna
Right.
ask.
If this, and I, would expect that it's gonna last 20 minutes.
All right, so what I know I can do, I can put together a 5-minute, let's tell our story. I thought last night that I on purpose omitted other work and phase 2 work, that was in our PowerPoint that I showed to, and presentation I showed to the village manager and the assistant village manager. They're very impressed, but they saw a bigger piece. Last night I showed phase 1. I didn't go into phase 2 of possibilities, like Peter, you said the really huge piece,
Yeah,
that everybody like, oh man, that would be beautiful out there. I didn't show any of that,
Right.
and it was by design. I only showed the designs that we came up with so far, and not your history of where we are with your, the same thing, Christine, and same thing with you, Carol. All of us, I didn't put that type of presentation together. In 5 minutes, I can sit here and I could time this presentation with introducing us again, more of our work, and also they're going to ask me for what's phase 1, what do you anticipate phase 2, and then the phase 3 would be the bigger pieces, and I did say that you would have to do fundraising for, because you put a price tag on that big one at $150,000. Christine, you put a price tag on that one, like Calumet, to create a gathering space of, was that 50?
55,
55,000. So
Yeah.
those, and we can give those price points.
yeah.
Right now, we have $30,000 to work with that the city is trying to allocate to us. I put a presentation together to say, this is what what you're spending your money on. And this is what we came up with our ideas. What I thought about and dreamed about, because I tossed and turned about, after like what, because those questions came up. And even for myself, the questions of nature, and I do all this nature work, and I have some slides to show you about where we were. Carol and I were 2 years ago in 2023 in working in the woods with the arts, and so I presented one look of what I do as an artist, but I didn't put in where I've been and how these works shape and this art looks in nature, or it looks in the woods, or look, and how it works, which could have been. And so I took some of those comments to say how I want to look and tell our story, but first tell our story. And we can do that by people are visual. They want to see, how this works. And so I was thinking the first part of that presentation, because 2 minutes is a long time. You saw how long it took for Bill's video to go, and it seemed like we're watching a long video, but it was only 2 minutes, right? And this is what we do. I do a lot of reviews on applications nationally, statewide, in the city of Chicago. So I know as a, like as a juror, when I'm reading applications, I know what to look for, and I know how much time I spend on those applications. So I'll go back and do some of the comments that Peter just said, how to lay it out, tell our story, and we can do that in 5 minutes. I know the rest of the meeting will be 10 minutes of Q&A, but I'll do an uninterrupted PowerPoint that it will be interesting enough for them that tells our story, you know what I mean, and lay it out. Because I think that looking at the Cook County placemaking application, it asks the question and gives examples of your work as project managing over these types of projects. We all are project managers, that I brought to you guys. Every last one of us are there. And I really I feel that we shape this team that but we want to still have some creativeness over our work, you know what I mean? And not where, I didn't want to show the images last night of the breadth of work that we all do, because then they'll say, can I do this? Can you do this?
Yeah,
we
right.
wanted to do something unique to Hazel Crest and build from there, and not have them look at all the work that we've done for someone else so they can say, I want it to look like that.
Good point.
Shopping.
We don't want work, and Mr. Super
Yeah.
doesn't want work that already has been produced for somebody else's project and is sitting in our studio somewhere, and we just go grab it up and then go take it over here and plop it down. That's not what we're doing. So I didn't want to, in the slide presentation, do that. So I'm going to run this slide presentation again, and just do it real fast and put it on slide, and here we are. You can make a comment, real quick. This is when we came out in November to tell the story. I could do without this, laying it out for the different parts that we're going to talk about. Yes or no?
I would just put up that one slide that says art in the woods. And
Right here?
forget this one.
Okay, so I'll delete this one. And
That's
then,
what I would.
yeah, this was another intro, to it.
Well, just pick one.
Okay, tell me, because this is what we're gonna go down the slides and curate this real quick. And then number 2 is out.
Is this
We can
one
leave-
number 2 or number 1?
This was number.
This is number 3.
This is 2.
Yeah, we don't need that.
Okay, so I'm gonna delete that. This is 3.
I think that's good. That makes, because you're saying the presentation is about a statement being made that inspired this project.
Okay, and then here.
No, you don't need to say all that, because what you can say in the beginning is we have made this big presentation to the Beautification Commission and have explained the background, and they've decided to pass this now forward to you. and,
Okay,
and forget about, I don't know, that would be my thing, but you could, again, I don't like text because it looks like, what happens is you turn to the slide and you read the text. You're supposed to
Well,
be
they-
talking to the people.
right. And so my rationale is because Marilyn was not going to
No, I know.
remember. And I did this for her because usually you put it in the notes and people, you know, the bullet points are there and then people talk about it, the slide. But I put it here because I already knew that, you know, she didn't have the time. And I didn't want to give her notes, you know, and that worked out. But again, and then they passed this thing around, this PowerPoint around to the commission and everybody else. So they will need this story, but for our purposes next week, I'll take it out.
Okay, I have a comment
Yes.
too. I haven't seen the whole presentation, but I think, you know, talking about community engagement would be, because every time you talk with the people, they talk about community engagement. So
Okay,
I
can I
think,
finish the slide? It's in here.
okay,
It's in here. Okay, next. And just meet the open lands. You know, we did an introduction before we started the slide, so it's kind of redundant. You know, this, you know, they already know this. I'll leave this in. And then here is our team. I tried to make sure, for some reason, Peter, another image that I had of you that's in front of some artwork, it was transparent or something. And when I tried to put in a PDF, it just moved you off. So I went and found this one online.
Okay, what would you
And
like? That's only 15 years ago.
I know.
I'd say that's a younger picture of you.
Yeah, I didn't, you know, well, I only use like I reserve the right to go through and purge stuff that's you got on your Facebook or on your websites or that's out there already. If I don't have it in the file when I'm
Okay.
working, so.
Well, I'll send you some better images.
Okay, great. Carol, I have some more of you on this thing as well. And then Christine and I did settle on this one that was on her website. So, you know, I think this is
yeah,
anyway, meet the team. They did. We introduced ourselves. We won't have to do that on the board. We'll just go through this.
Yeah, just show the picture and go on, right?
Yes.
Alpha,
And then propose.
I have a question or a
Yes.
comment.
Yes.
I don't think Alice's photo showed up last night. There were a few images that didn't show,
Right.
although you see them on the PowerPoint. I don't think we saw Alice last night, did we?
No, it was a
We
black
did not.
space.
It was
Yes,
blank,
okay,
yeah.
so I'm gonna have to get another image from her and put up there. All right, and then this is proposed projects. I went with the bullets, which are long sentences, but I went with the bullets. Another long narrative. We'll just have
I
these in
would
notes.
skip this one.
Yeah, okay, skip.
If you stand up with confidence, you don't have to explain that you're going to be confident.
I can do that, but
I know.
again, let's see, okay, we'll skip this one. And
I mean, the
then,
last sentence was fine.
which
yeah,
one? This,
the last sentence is
Vibrant space.
Yeah,
aims to foster
that's it. That's
interactive.
everything right there.
all right, so I'll leave it in, and I'll just put the vibrant space up there. But again, I'll put this on a timer so that I'll time this out for 5 minutes.
Right. Make it bigger.
Okay, and then I put this in here and it was questioned. This image didn't show up, only one side showed up.
The one on the left did not show up.
Right, I saw that. I don't know what happened with the transfer between the equipment and then my flash drive.
Mhm.
You know, it was doing that when I transferred stuff into a PDF, and I asked him to put the PowerPoint on instead of the PDF or something. But
What
I
is
showed
that?
this image because we need to get an aerial view map of, you know, the open land, you know, so that we can, well, not only Bill, but that we can create, and this is going to you, Christine, question too, for your graphic
Mhm.
artist, the overview map that we want to put together of the open land and where your pieces are going to go. And now that you've decided where yours is going to go, then and Peter knows, then we can start getting that map together.
Okay.
Okay, and then
Uh,
I use,
Alpha,
yes,
I think it would be good, if you said that this is going to be a professional extension of what has already been started and is complementary to the art district.
Very good.
Because we have been doing,
Mhm.
you
It's
know,
not that.
some artistic stuff, and we embellished some fire hydrants. We constructed the dead end barricade that with a bench that is certainly different than most dead end barricades. And a couple of other things, but what we have done as volunteers, you are professionally extending.
okay, I'll figure it out how to put that, but you have the
Something like
pop
that,
art, fire hydrant, you have the dead end barricades. I can just put, like a existing pop art is what you guys been
Yeah,
calling.
I can send you some,
And
some
then you've
pictures
also have did like you said, some of the log cuts. Yeah, I'll make a list and then put that list up there or prior, projects.
Yeah,
As well. And
that-
maybe I'll put that slide up there where you guys were back up here.
and even our planner around the signs that we have used, the concrete stones that are it's got wood.
Could you send me a list of just a list
Yeah.
of the projects
Yes,
to
yes,
date?
I will do that.
That you've done so that we can list them as, ongoing, like smaller, like but the way I presented this is from the artist point of view that are coming in to bring in the art installations.
Yeah.
Okay.
That this is just, professional extension of what we have done as volunteers.
Okay. But yeah, again, send me a point, not a list of each of those projects so we can look at to date what has been happening with the art.
And the, and complementing, the art district.
Okay. All right. And then because that is really, really important in the conversation that we had with Sawyer in Sawyer's office is that they do want that balance. They do want when people come to the art center that they have another, like I said, a tourist destination where folks are coming over and touring and looking at the installation work over this. All right. And then so we provided these maps, but we want to expand on these maps so that we can have them on your website so that locations of art and then phase 1. And then we should identify phase 2 while we got their attention. Phase 2 where we want other sculptures to be as well in 2026. Here I put the community engagement piece, Carol, that you were talking about. Alice is there in the middle with the shakere. And I know that Hazel Crest has like drumming circles out there as well. But I found this picture online and I thought it would be good for Alice, to focus on the community engagement piece and how crucial it is.
Although
Is
we're
there
gonna be
any-
outside when we do our community engagement, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, it's gonna be right here where I put, you see how the image in the background and I used it
Right.
presentation area, that's where it's gonna be. But again, I didn't see anything of Alice outside. It was on Facebook. I grabbed it. All right, and then Peter provided his piece, and his vision for the cloudburst. Thank you, Peter. And then he put it in space in the area, and we were able to go over that and talk about it. And everyone loved the piece. But then some felt like, is this what we're getting, or are you going to show us other things that are possible?
They
So
want to know
that's
what
where-
color they could change it to.
Yeah. But it echoes the colors that Maryland already has on some of the projects out there. They were
Yeah,
talking.
no,
Yeah,
Yeah, the
so
colors are fine. Colors I feel are fine. Mhm. Because as you stated, and as it is important, when the weather climate becomes bland and we have no greenery and it's winter, that's something that will be seen from afar.
mhm.
we can
So that's
also, I added, just a comment here to make sure that we can add a plate right here as a disclaimer, because someone was concerned that those kids are gonna get out there and play on it like it's a playground. No, they usually don't do that to public art. And it is an engaging piece. I do see folks interact with big sculptures down, you know, in the Loop and other areas of town, but I also see people that respect art that's placed in public places. So,
yeah.
but we can also put a plaque here, something that has a disclaimer on it, you know, in case we do get someone out there that is not paying attention to kids stuff and, or, you know, it starts swinging off of. So, you know, we can think about the language for that, Carl and Marilyn.
Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right. And so here, I wanted to show this piece here because it was one of the pieces that Bill has in the collection over. And we did have the scorpion on that pole right there, and Bill took it over to the house because of that tail was
Yeah.
always an issue of safety and stuff like that.
Oh.
So, and that's why I didn't hang it or have it in my studio, because I felt like I don't need anybody to back into that tail of that scorpion. But yeah, it's in the garden over there. But so I just tried to introduce you, you know, what you do real quickly. You know, I think I want to retain this slide. And they
Okay.
can read it. I'll give them a minute, you know, and they can, you know, blink and kind of, I'll time the slide so that it's not long gaps. And I really appreciate this piece going in and that incorporating Carl's idea about the base. And I think that this can be for all of the sculptures to have that wooden uniform base, you know, for the sculptures out there. And that's why I responded that, you know, like for the Penny, when she was concerned about, you know, the metal doesn't go, I'm like, concrete doesn't either, but we're working with it. You know, it's not just plain, it's about the pop of the earth once, you know, the canopy goes away.
Mhm.
You know, so. And here, you found a solution, Christine, like last night for this piece and the location for it.
Yeah.
Okay, and they really, of course, love your woodwork. And I'm glad we added these pieces in. I'm glad we left this piece that's already in the Cook County, and we could have conversations about it. So I'm going to leave these slides in. But I also want to double slides to add phase 2 work between you and Peter.
Yes, technically that bench would be in phase 2.
Okay.
And that was one of my main questions today. So going forward, are we going to concentrate on informing the public about phase 1, or do we go on to phase 2 to give them a little taste of, you know, what they can see next year?
Right
what
now,
should
while we
do?
have their attention to answer that question and without laboring it, we're going to show them phase 2 because they asked about for
Okay.
the timeline when, you know, we're going to do phase 1 and of course phase 2. They want to see.
Okay, good.
And while we have their attention, we need to approve them because the next pot of funding would be from 2006, you know, allocation.
Uh-huh.
Okay, and we already have a cost for your piece already, because you have
Right.
proposed 2, and right now they've purchased 1.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And same for Peter, he asked for 2 sculptures, and right now we've approved 1 with this budget. And then Carol here, this is, I think, I was concerned about like a lot of the white lettering got lost, but we were talking more about, it was the images that people love. And I'll just have notes if they want to ask, but I like leaving something up about the artist on these slides real quick. But again, I don't think that needs to be bullet points.
I would just trim it down and make the text larger.
Okay.
So
Carol,
that looks great to me, Alpha.
Okay.
If you need me to edit down the description, I can do that too.
Okay, thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
and Carol, I wanted to say that that piece there, the percussions and the wind chimes seem to have been a hit with a lot of the commissioners out there. As you said, that would give sound
Yeah,
to the
Yeah.
project, and that in itself is unique.
yes. And I wonder, Carl, do you guys have trees that have that much of a trunk on them? Most of the pictures show kind of younger or smaller trees. I'm gonna be out there in August, but just so I can imagine between now and then.
I have been trying to think about, what we might have. We've got some pieces of small aluminum pole, but not that small. And I'll keep my eyes open as to what, we may have, laying around that kind of thing, or that we find. My latest find was a culvert, but that's way too big and everything that you could do with that. But yeah, we find some unusual things,
I know that's right. Well, I'll say to you that it doesn't, that was designed specifically for that tree. The work I do with you, it will be designed specifically for your trees. So,
All righty.
And
just
then Carol
wondering.
will be one of the we call them resident artists, because her work, when she comes in and does the community engagement piece.
Mhm.
Last night, Carol, they were talking about like the Sun Festival.
Mhm.
And you do a lot of work around the equinox, summer solstice and that kind of thing. So they're gonna look to, I would deferred programming to you, and the selection of musicians are, people that sing songs and praises to the sun.
Yes, and I will need to work with
Yeah.
the community outreach people to make that happen as well. And actually, what I'm doing this year in August is a full moon festival, a full moon social, I think they're calling it. So it'll be daytime making the art, finishing up in the evening and celebrating the rise of the moon.
All right. So you guys see each other now, exchange phone numbers and stuff, and like you guys already
Yeah.
have a plan to talk and meet and stuff. But I showed this slide, Carol, because you sent it. Great. Thank you for sending stuff. I know you're on the road trying to do stuff. This showed it better, like in the fall, how that piece comes out from under the canopy. I really like that. So
Very
and
seasonal.
then
And it gives you a proportion with me standing there, how big the pieces are, how large they are on the tree.
and Carol was approved for 3. She's only going to be able to do 1, the first phase, and then she has 2 others that she will be doing and phasing in her work. And her
Sorry.
her concern was about the aluminum, and I mentioned to the Beautification Commission last night that we're gonna go over there and look in the boneyard over there at Public Works to see what they have, you know, because people just throw away aluminum's everywhere. You know, we have scrap metal everywhere that are in the yards. I know when I was with a curator for the gathering space for the Field Museum, the Park District, they invited the artists to go over and look at the, you know, we call it the boneyard over there with different, everything was thrown away, wood, whatever they want, because it's another project in nature.
Awesome. I did that in
Okay.
San Francisco at the dump yard. Yes, yes, yes. That's exciting. Thank you.
Because I know, like, you know, we're talking about the expense of aluminum and metal, but we
Yeah.
have a lot of, we have a lot of discard around, so. All right. This is fine. This is where I think the other images, I'll double them so that they can see more of the work and it's that you guys are doing. And I presented this. Again, it's along the city. I looked at this as scale. I think that it won't be this size. It'll be the smaller size, and then the village will have to talk about imagery. You know, and I will show some of my mural work in nature and some of the other projects in nature I'll add so that they can, people could understand this was just a project that fit this space, but this is making places for people to sit. It doesn't have to be the concrete. It can be other imagery. And I do mural work, so.
Looks great.
Right, and when we were out there doing the tree planting, Carl let me know at Kinsey is not a good street to put something like that on, you know, and so I looked at this when we were sitting there and you guys were wanting to connect the work that we're doing with the community, but there's a community that's here that we want them to be more engaged with the open land that live here. That's a population that's right there. I don't know how many come over, you know, to programming, but I think by you know, addressing this entryway into the open land and having art on this side would be phase 2. All right, and then I went into the financial strategy and talking about how we were spending the funding. And then I did give a handout of the deliverable and tasks, and I think that I'll add those pages like that with the scope of work instead of this, I don't know, it's up to you all, the grid. Should I just do this template on the slide and leave it as is, or should I just do where it's more bullet pointers?
I don't know if they need to see all this.
Yeah, that's how I feel about it.
Well, I think that the question was, and Mr. Sawyer was like, had asked me for, you know, we want to know what we're paying and what we're getting for the money that we're spending. And I have it broken down in, you know, tasks, deliverables, and I could not give him our timeline because the timeline is shifting now that we are doing more, you know, kind of community engagement work. You know, I gave him an overall timeline from start to finish to community engagement pieces, but because we're just now in the design process and then finding locations for the work, I couldn't, you know, and each of you have to give me your work plan, and when you see feasibility of when it could be finished, and some are more, I don't know, all of them are complicated in terms of timelines and constructing, you know, the installations. Bill's is going to be long because he has to engage the community first before he can even get started with his metal plates. And so those things, you know, I have to get a timeline together.
Well, Alpha, did you say you gave them a little notebook or a little like real paper stuff? That
I did. I made 6 binders last night for those, like, I know I work better in binders because there's so much stuff going on. I can't find stuff in files or whatever, but I usually, which I can, but when I can just reach for it, it's right there and we can add to it, you know what I mean? And add, you know, I didn't make them because they're expensive to make per person, takes a lot of ink. I just made enough for our committee, Carl, Carl didn't take one because he already is doing what I'm doing. Printing out stuff, and he has it, and Peter has it in his computer, and he's conscious of paper, and
Well, I'm
having that
thinking
stuff.
I was just thinking this could go in the binder and skip the slide. That's
Okay,
all.
so the last, the financial, but I do need to, mind you, we need to tell them how their money is being spent. It's a lot of detail here, but maybe I'll put another slide up that says, the task and then how much it is and that, because, or I'll have, like you said, an individual handout to give them, um, and then this slide, and I think that our partners right now, of course, the William G. Hill Open, Hazel Crest Open Land, and then the Village. But I also put Hazel Crest Community United Methodist Church. Was that okay, Carl? Because you are a fiscal agent for this project. Where's Carl? Are you unmuted?
He's muted.
Carl, are you there?
I just unmuted him.
Okay.
I just unmuted him. So Carl,
Yeah, I don't think that's necessary.
why?
The church is not doing much except, pushing the money through.
But that's a big piece. That you came on as a community partner, and if we're talking about fundraising and you all.
It's community involvement and so forth, yes.
I think so. That's why I put it on there, but I didn't ask you before and got permission, but I will be using the logo, because of the fact, like, at the end of the day, Carl jumped right in when I called him and I needed help on submitting that placemaking application, which was a big application. But we found that we couldn't, we couldn't proceed because we needed an organization that was a nonprofit in Hazel Crest to be our fiscal agent for any funding that we raise for open land. And I'm really going to give the respect to the church that they came up, they gave financials, they signed papers, Carl's on the treasury over there, and that kind of engagement and that kind of help with our partners. I was under pressure to make sure that all the work that I did to put this application together didn't fail because we didn't have a fiscal agent. And at the last minute, I had financials for a national nonprofit, but they needed someone local in Cook County. So I appreciate, Carl, that you were able to do that, and you're working as a team with me on this, to get it done. So this is, and that's the response that I'll give if someone asks about why is the Methodist Church on here, but they're the first, nonprofit community organization that stepped up to say, we'll be part of this, even if it's a pass through, 10% of whatever on our fiscal sponsorship agreement goes back over, to the church if we have to run funding through their, it says I'm a grant writer, I'm looking for other, so that we can have some autonomy as artists over our project if we're paying for it. Then I think that would be better. And for matching funds, we're showing our good faith that, we're all in to help with this project or to bring the vision through. So, okay, so I made notes of what to take out. Hi, Bill. I'm glad you were able to join us. I just unmuted you.
Oh, good. All right. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Hi, Bill.
Hi, Bill.
Right.
Alpha, can I just make one comment
Yes.
about that last page? The logo for Village of Hazel Crest looks a little fuzzy or pixelated. I wonder
I
if you
don't have original one, and I need them to send me one.
okay, so you're waiting for a bigger file?
Yeah,
Bigger size
because
file,
right now
good.
I'm just, again, I said, if I don't have it, I have to go and search their website, search different places and grab
Right.
it. And I
Got
grabbed
it.
this one from Google,
Got it.
images, this one I took a photograph and then I cropped this down.
Mhm.
I'll send you a logo.
Okay, thank you. And then same thing with the community, United Methodist, I went to Google and grabbed something offline.
Mhm.
That looks fine.
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
It shouldn't
and
be
Bill's-
any bigger than William Hill. No,
Okay.
they should all be the same size.
All right, so I'll
Height.
shrink it down. Okay, so the last slide, and then I think all of us have our logos and stuff like that, but we're coming in as individual artists, and I didn't put all that on. I just put the organizations that right now are our partners. And I'm sure like you guys have more partners that make this happen, but this is, this is the presentation that I'll put together for next week.
That's fine.
All right, so. All right, thanks for all your help, and comments and calling me when I have a pepper seed in my eyeball. And we had to work through it, like, because that's how determined I was to get this slide together. I can't even see the screen, squinting
Okay.
from a burning jalapeno seed. But and then Peter, thanks for your help in editing and sending me thoughts about the slide presentation, taking out the time to get it done. So because when I'm working in the middle of the night or rushing through, other eyes on it, it's great. All right. So I will send around the PowerPoint by Friday, and so you can make comments on it and send it back.
Okay. I have one small question for Carl. Carl, that tree to the right of the Siberian elm, the smaller one, what is that? Is that also an elm?
That's also
know?
a Siberian elm.
They both are. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so Bill, do you have comments about last night? That's what we kind of went around about, things that we could do to improve the conversation. How'd you feel about the presentation?
Yeah, I thought it was right on point. You know, we didn't include like a possibility of what a second or third stage would look like yet, but I'm thinking that when we meet the city council or
Village.
village council, that will show that I think it's important to have a third phase of the possibilities of of our project with Hazel Crest.
Yeah, I asked Peter if he could send me a JPEG, because he sent me a PDF. And when I use the Adobe PDF, conversion and convert it to a JPEG or convert it to a dot, I see that it's kind of blurry. So if I can get the original image instead of the PDF, that I don't have to go in and convert it to show it, I will add, I want to add those images from the original PowerPoint because they were very powerful and they were very exciting. And I didn't get anything but good responses from those.
Okay.
I have a question for Carl.
Beautiful day.
Talk with Debbie, and she mentioned that invasive species should be a concern. What are your feelings on that?
Is there species that should be concerned?
No, I'm saying that invasive species that are present at open land, that instead of focusing on native plants at this time, we should look at ways of eliminating invasive plant species.
Our most invasive one that we have been working on for 30 years is buckthorn.
Hey, Buck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
I have it
hoping
in my
to use
garden
that.
so
What?
I have it in my garden. I have buckthorn in my garden on Stony Island as well. But my question is, is there a way to curb the invasive spread?
I have a comment. I can make a comment, because, it's a matter of how you look at the plants. I know where I live, the big old trees are are dying, and the new trees would be called invasive by gardeners, master gardeners and stuff. So I don't know, can we find a place for them in our world? Can we develop relationships with those plants, or are we gonna just try to kick them out? And to be honest, they're virulent. Most of what we call invasive are very strong in our environment. And so I don't know what the purpose of who asked that question and what their concern is. But it's not a yes or no answer. It really isn't. It's a community of plants, and it depends on how much quote damage, in my opinion, they're doing. I don't know the purpose of that question. I would have to understand where
Mo-
they're coming from.
Yeah,
Well, as a
I
master
agree with you,
gardener,
Carol. You go ahead.
as a master gardener, if I can answer a little bit about that, we like to remove as much of the invasive plants as we can. It's impossible because when your birds take advantage, they poop the seeds out and all of that, so they constantly grow. But what those invasive plants are, as you said, in your community, may not be invasive in our community. So you've got your native plants in your community, we have those in ours, and then you have the invasive. But the invasive plants can choke out the ecosystem for the natural
Hello.
birds and elements in our area. So
Good.
that's always a big concern. And that's why we try to remove as much as we can, but it's impossible.
Yeah, I guess Maryland is just a matter of what you consider natural, because something being planted there by some seeds and a bird poop, that's pretty natural. You know what I'm saying?
Well, it's a natural process from the bird,
Right. Right.
but it may not be a natural plant from the area. But that's what makes it impossible. And you were saying, Bill, I'm sorry.
Well, I was thinking just in terms of the Chicago Botanical Garden, I'm not making comparisons, but there
Right.
we have there's a way of plant identification for various native plants. I saw very little of that in at Hazel Crest, and I think Carl responded because of the funding. Uh, not much funding available to create various plant communities that would blend in with new coming sculpture art.
Writing it down.
As we've replanted after removing buckthorn, we've replanted with a wide variety of trees and shrubs. Kind of thing, not just one or two, but 130. And kind of thing. And that was by design that we know coming down the road that some plants are going to be attacked for one reason or another. And the wider diversity that we have, the better shape that we're going to be in. Most, if not all, of the invasives are foreign to our native ecoculture, ecology. They were brought over to North America because they had some attribute that made them a nice plant in their native setting. But what didn't happen when they brought the plant over, they didn't bring the critters that kept it in control. And all of a sudden, when there's no body around to slap your hands when you get out of line, you grow very quickly.
Yeah.
And, so, that's the problem with exotic foreign plants that, when you bring them out of their native environment, they don't have the critters that kept them in check.
Okay. Yeah, I understand.
But you can also find you might be able to find uses for them, right? They're foreign to us, but like hemp, you make paper, you make fabric, there can be a purpose of that plant living there as well. But that's
Can you
why I
guys
said
have an artist talk on that? Can you guys have a horticulturalist talk on that?
yeah, you talking about us?
Yeah, I think it'd be a great conversation to have. I call
Well, let
myself
me
trying to
write
do
that
native
down.
plants at, when I was on the west side at the Switcher Station Artist Loft. And I went into this whole thing about native plants. And do you know that when I planted them in our garden, the management came and cut them down? Because they were doing the gardening contract and they thought they were weeds. And I said, oh, even my 4 o'clocks or whatever, they just cut them down because they weren't the urban garden variety. They
That's
just
why I
said
was
they were.
saying it's really a conversation and almost like a view that the Hazel Crest community wants to take of what they do with their plant, with what comes to live there. It's really, I think, a conversation, not just a yes or no. But I like the idea of a community conversation. So I wrote that down. I'd like to help make that happen.
Yeah, and Carl does those presentations as well.
What Alpha?
Okay.
Yeah, Carl does those. I think I saw him on that agenda talking about, what was the last presentation you did, invasive species removal?
Yes, we have a grant to remove invasive species, primarily buckthorn.
But not the other native plants, right?
So
Right.
someone last night asked about that, Bill?
Yeah,
What?
I was talking with Debbie, and she had mentioned to me that an ecological concern for the eliminating invasive plants in Hazel Crest is very important. So, as opposed to exploring creating plant communities of various native plants, but I think we do need to come together to create a map system where, with this integration between sculpture and the natural landscape, we can also identify specific native plants that are within that area as we move throughout the sculptural, from one sculpture to another.
I hear you. I like that. But it's funny. I just want to say this one thing. It's like Hazel Crest's space that they're establishing and building is not like just on its own. Like when their part of the land ends, there's land that abuts it that's gonna have what you call invasive plants. So it's like it's an entire, what I mean? It's just not possible to think it lives separately, just like our humans. And we live in a ecosystem. So it's
Yeah. But I think it's a good topic, and
absolutely.
In the near future we can have more a seminar or a brief lecture on those topics.
And a creative response by the people who were there. That's the kind of conversation that you could turn into art. different opinions, different ideas. What does that look like? You know, all of that can be part of the community engagement conversation. It doesn't have to end with words only. Visuals can be created too, to represent what we're talking about and how people feel about what we're talking about, you know.
So that's why I told them that you're kind of the expert in the in the field, and that community engagement piece, that they really want to see that happen. I know that Mr. Sawyer really wants to, and the beautification committee in itself, they want to make sure that it's a full community engagement piece. Last night was community engagement. I could take the conversation that happened last night, and use it as part of our report.
Okay.
All
Yes.
right. Is there any more? I'm over here working on that PowerPoint while you guys are talking. But and then deleting the things that I need to delete and adding the things that I needed to add. So so again, I'll share that when I finish. But we'll save the one that's already saved. I'm glad you guys were able to share it, and I'll send it to you, Carol, for your. I think I already sent it to you on through the docu. All right, so the only thing that I need to move forward is your, images of your work, Peter, so that I can, make another slide for you of other work. And like that bigger, I know you had the balls, the steel balls.
Yeah, I know, yeah.
And the third phase is the pond. The second phase is what we should be presenting, Bill, on this PowerPoint. And then the third phase is once we cross the street and go over to where they envision the pond to be.
Yes, I agree.
All right. And then for, and that would be a Carl question, I guess, and a Marilyn question about, your timeline for the pond.
Now, when you say pond, are we talking about the creek? Or
No, I wouldn't say a creek. The area you envision to be a pond.
A rain garden.
The rain, there you go, the rain garden. But right now, sometimes with the overflow of water, it looks like a big old pond right there.
I
Right?
think that pond is beautiful, but Carl, well, you tell them, Carl, your view on that, because I would like it to be ponding, but there's implications involved.
The problem is it's not deep enough, and you get all the scum on top of the water.
And also it's a basin for mosquitoes and blah, 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 blah.
Blah, blah, blah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, all right. So the rain garden, then what's his name? Jimmy, who works with Public Works. He just felt that that would be an excellent sculpture. What's his name?
Tony.
Tony, okay, would be an excellent location for that rain cloud.
I gotta go.
He just made a comment.
Oh.
All right, Carol, thank you. All right, we'll talk soon.
All right.
All right.
Thanks, Carol. We will talk soon.
All right.
And I do apologize for not getting with you
No
soon.
problem, Marilyn. No problem.
Okay. All right. Take care.
Okay.
All righty.
The thing that Tony's vision was, I understand because of the drops and the clouds and all of that. But I reminded Tony that that is not the area where we have most patrons to even come to at all.
At this
They
point,
don't, not at this point.
right.
It would be great to have them to come over there, and especially those that live in those condos, a beautiful site for them. But at this point, it's not prepared for Peter's sculpture, not at all.
So you're talking 2027, 2028?
Yeah.
I can't even
And a
imagine
lot
my
of
mom
it,
saying
doesn't
that.
Yeah. And a lot of that too, Carl, isn't it based on the weather and the water and the rain and all of that type of thing? So that's been about a
And-
what, 5-year project? so
Yeah,
far.
and, you know, availability of equipment and public works
Yeah.
time. Last July, we got hit with a big windstorm that, we in the open lands and public works on the streets, you know, spent most of the rest of the year cleaning up from.
Those trees.
Residents were bringing out, you know, branches. You know, not everybody cleaned up within the first 2 weeks, and you know, some come out this week, some next week, some next month, and you know, so took forever to get it all cleaned up. And
Okay.
it took us, you know, a long time to cut up everything that fell in the open lands.
All right, so I put a 5-year on that and a pin in it. And then I'll find a pin, you know, and then put a pin in it on a slide, you know, because that is part of a conversation that we've been having. And then it helps give me a timeline that to address in the PowerPoint.
And we're, again, are we talking about the pond area, Alpha?
Your rain garden pond?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are they the same thing?
What do I
like
got
how
to
you
call
said
it?
that
What do you want me
because
to
I
call
would
it?
love for
Do you
it to
guys
be
want
a
to agree
pond.
upon either and or find another name?
Well, I would love for it to be a pond, so that's why.
And where
That's
is that? I want to put that on the map. Where is that pond? I don't remember.
Yeah, when we were walking to the bathroom,
Yeah.
you came and we took down we walked across the field and we walked along the road.
Okay,
Going
give
toward the
me a
police
street or
station?
something. I'm not great on,
No, but I can't give you a street because we walked across, when we were
Okay.
at the tree
tree
planting.
planting. Yeah.
And we walked across that lawn, we walked across a wooded area.
Yeah.
And then there was a street and we were talking and we were walking down that street to the police station.
Beyond the dead end,
Oh, that was 171st?
but beyond 170th.
Okay, so you mean going north, 171st then? I'm sorry, south?
Yeah,
Ye-
we crossed through there, and if you might recall, there were a few ducks in the little
Oh,
small.
sure. Oh, yeah. No,
Yeah.
I remember it perfectly. I just don't remember where it was in terms of, the whole arboretum. That's
You
all. So I
saw
wanted to-
apartments back there. They're the only thing that's back there is those apartments.
Okay.
You know, and it's right across the street from those apartments as we were walking. That's the only thing. I got lost and turned around yesterday because I went into that dead end.
Okay.
Oh,
Knowing
no.
that it's a dead end, but I just still, the GPS was taking me over there and then building
Right.
it.
Well, that's where,
And-
yeah, I parked on the dead end. Yeah. So,
And then we had to figure out how to get out of there and go
Oh,
back
Mhm.
around and
sorry.
come back around.
yeah.
The
I'm
GPS
sorry, I
was,
should have
yeah,
waited for you.
that's
Well,
fine.
I must depart, everyone, and it's good talking to you all, and I'll
We'll
see
see you Saturday.
you, Saturday.
All right.
Bye now.
All right, Bill,
Bye.
thanks.
Okay.
Christine, for Saturday, my granddaughter is opening that program that I sent you.
Yeah,
about-
in
yeah.
Sand Creek, in the
Yes.
Forest Preserve.
Nature Center, Nature Center.
That
She was,
is,
uh,
that is
11 o'clock
fantastic.
on the
And
program.
yeah, as I said, I'm going to talk to Professor Larry McClellan because he's the guy. He's the head of the Midwest Underground Railroad Association, and I think we should have it at Beaubien Woods. I think it'd be perfect. So very interesting. Very
Alright.
interesting.
Okay, Alpha, I will send you the logo momentarily, and
And
see
also the
my-
list of projects that are completed, the art,
right, that
that you
Oh,
guys.
yeah.
that may take me the rest of the night to do, but I'll get it
Okay.
to you by
Alright,
tomorrow
Great, and
morning.
then I'll add it to the PowerPoint. All right, so thank you guys. If you need to take off, that'll be great, because I don't want to just beat it over the head of what we needed, but I just really wanted to talk about the, to be prepared for Monday, Tuesday.
So you
Okay,
want us
Okay.
there
Now I'm
Tuesday?
confused again. I'm coming on Monday.
You're coming on Monday and
Yeah.
bringing the presentation for the landscape and then we'll do our media bliss, for that. And then,
Right.
then for Bill and I, there's a board meeting.
Right.
On that
Tuesday
Tuesday.
night,
So I
Okay.
will see everyone on Monday.
on Monday, yes.
All right.
All right,
Okay.
well, good afternoon, everyone, and
Yes.
my point would try to make that board meeting on Tuesday. If not, then I will.
You're not gonna be there so you can make it the presentation? What are you doing, leaving me on the limb?
I mean, they really would probably, what is she talking about? It. No, but you did a fabulous job on that presentation. In fact, I would not have had enough of that information to engrade it. I would have had to read line by line what you had written. So once I become more skilled, as you are, Alpha, in the progress of what we're doing, I won't even try to handle that. You did
Okay.
excellent. All of you did. You presented your projects well, very, very well. And
Well, I may need you there to co-sign, to co-sign what we're doing. And if they ask me something about, open lands that I can't answer, you guys would be there to kind of.
well, I'm glad you said, because I had no intentions actually of being there. I was going to delegate someone. In fact, we had talked about that, but I'll look at my agenda and consider that if you should need me to co-sign on that.
Okay, thank you. And your social media person,
Atara.
Atara, we would like to, I would want to start talking with her about how to promote the
Okay.
artists and do features on the artists that are coming in.
Okay. Okay, that would be good. She has your card because you passed it out
I did.
to her. So I will suggest that she makes contact with you.
Okay.
if
And that
that's
way
good.
she could share Christine. I only had one of Christine's cards. I didn't have any of yours, Peter, which I have your card here on my desk, but I don't have it like for a presentation. So if people want to find out more about us, they could go and use the card. Bill brought out like 4 cards. We'll bring more brochures and for the table on Monday for people to pick up and know more
I'm
about.
glad you brought that up. How about if I bring some Chicago Tree Project brochures so they can see
That'd
all
be
the
great.
tree sculptures? And then I have cards that I can distribute to people, and some of the cards, they have different images on them, and some of them have my benches on there, so they can have a little visual representation of what I do. Okay, I'm gonna write that down so I'll remember.
All right.
So then on Monday, you're going before, is that the Art Center on Monday?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because they
And
have
then
they said they got a grant for the landscape and they want to
right.
media
Okay, and
books.
then Tuesday is the board meeting. All right, so with that, I will bid my goodbye and I
All
will
right.
be in contact with you all soon.
Okay, great.
Okay, bye,
All right.
Marilyn.
Okay.
Bye,
Thank
everyone.
you.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Okay.
Have a great
See
day.
ya.
All right. Thank you guys
All
for
right.
coming out last night.
Yes.
All right. So you're gonna get me that stuff, Peter, or you already sent it?
No, I'll do it. I'll get it to you.
Okay, thank you so much. And I kind of wanted to talk with you about like the metal piece for, I know fabricating that once they agree that there's going to be metal chairs or not.
Yeah, that's
I
fine.
noticed that you shook your head about, that we could work something out with a branch. And I really didn't feel comfortable with trying to take someone's suggestion that I add a branch to something. Right? And so,
whatever.
I know, but I just still feel like I did go and was in Evanston, and I've been going through Falsmore, and I've also seen some sculptures that were similar to the work that you've done that are metal, that are along that Falsmore. It's a corridor in Baltimore
Oh,
that
really? Oh, okay.
public
Never
art
mind.
installed along the way through the town, or well, the village. And then when I was in Evanston on Sunday, they have a lot of sculpture around, and I saw Adira's piece that was at the park, and I took
Mhm.
photographs of it, but I'm not trying to lean on someone else's
Right.
concept. And then so this piece is something that I've worked on for 3 years,
Yeah.
and I can embellish it. I'm gonna add a mural project I did at Oak Forest Hospital, and it was nature, dealing with, Oak Forest Hospital. I'll add that to the slide so they can show what I do in nature.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing is if there could be a competition from the community
Mhm.
about themes maybe, or something like that, just to make them feel like they added something. It doesn't have to be what they specifically proposed.
Okay.
But, your interpretation of their proposal.
Right. And so that's where I was gonna go with the people cheers, because there's probably people that have its historic importance.
I don't
If
know.
they,
I spent a lot of time trying to find background on Hazel Crest. There just isn't very much.
no. And that milk jug thing that Carl was talking about, I was like, no, I don't think we're gonna be dealing with no milk jug. I guess it's a great idea, but I don't think we're gonna do anything with a milk
Yeah.
jug, out there, found object stuff, whatever. But
So,
we'll work it out. And again, I know you already know the deal with going into community, and then
yeah,
you said you can't give them just one thing, but if you give them 2 or 3 designs, you know, they'll decide upon one, and I think that we'll add the other images that you proposed, and not just the one that you created because of place and when we were there in the
Mm.
rain, and then you conceived the idea, and just do the backstory on how and why you thought about that piece being there, and that's unique to their space.
Yeah.
So
So do you need me Tuesday or not?
no, I don't think you have to come all the way
Okay.
out there for a 5-minute
Yeah.
presentation. That'll go into probably half an hour later or something, because I anticipate it'll probably be questions. I don't think,
Yeah.
no.
Okay.
Yeah, Bill and I can handle it.
Okay.
But if I could just get, those JPEGs, and then I could show them.
Yeah, right.
Stage 2, these are other ideas, these are other concepts, and they're just not just one.
Right.
Okay,
Okay.
all right, take care.
Thanks.
All
Okay, you
right.
too. Bye-bye.
I'm gonna take a moment to showcase a project that Carol and I did in 2023, and this was Oasis in the Woods. And this project was about taking and working with younger curators, and producing an installation in the woods. Um, this is Juniper's Garden, which is located in Brandywine, Maryland. They have 5 acres that their family is cultivating and building programming on. Um, it's part of a land preservation. Carol introduced me to the Juniper's Garden, and going out, it is very beautiful. Younger young families are out coming and cultivating and volunteering and working the land. This is part of Oasis in the Woods, and it was a rest portal. a wonderful celebration. An afternoon of folks getting out of DC and other areas and coming and bringing their families out for an afternoon, you know, celebrating the solstice, Juneteenth, and just a wonderful network of gardeners and art in the woods.